So, I believe that we are at, since the thoroughly pure Buddha sphere, right?
This detailed explanation of the four exalted bodies.
Yes, and I'm jumping down to, let's see, we should do Ngao Belden's word commentary. With respect to the nature body, there are the nature body that is the purity of adventitious defilements, and the nature body that is natural purity. As Jam-yang-shay-ba says, the Buddha matrix that we all have is the emptiness of the mind. I'm not reading that. I'm translating it internally. Of someone who has obstructions yet to be removed. So we all have an emptiness of the mind. And so a Buddha also has this second nature body, which is the nature body that is natural purity. Purity of what? Purity of mind. What kind of purity? Purity, that is to say, the natural lack of inherent existence. So we also have, even now, in the midst of our afflictive emotions and our obstructions to simultaneous cognition of all objects of knowledge, we have a natural purity, purity also. At Buddhahood, when all obstructions have been removed, this same natural purity is called a Buddha's nature body. Sorry, I'm jumping. This natural purity, it is natural, right? Even we have it, is called a Buddha's nature body that is natural purity. It is, even though we have a natural purity also, which is this absence of inherent existence of our mind, it's not called a nature body. It doesn't receive the name of nature body. But still we have it. So we have this great treasure. And then the Buddha, a Buddha, and the Buddha as whom we will become, also has a nature body that is a purity of adventitious defilements. Adventitious doesn't mean haphazard or uncaused. It just means that these obstructions, the afflictive obstructions and the obstructions to omniscience, do not abide in the very warp and woof, or the very nature of our minds. From this point of view, those obstructions are called adventitious. So, unlike us, who have a natural purity of which is the absence of inherent existence of our minds, of our mind or minds, a Buddha also has a purity of adventitious defilements. Why plural defilements? Because those I guess I'm getting ready to go to the south of America on the 3rd, so I'm saying defilements. Defilements. The defilement that is, the defilement that are the afflictive obstructions, which include the most subtle ignorance, afflictive ignorance, and the defilement that is the obstructions to omniscience. The obstructions to omniscience being the appearance of inherent existence, even to our sense consciousnesses, and our mental consciousness, except to a consciousness of meditative equipoise directly perceiving emptiness. So the body of attributes, which I've translated many times as truth body, is divided into a nature body, nature wisdom, nature body of attributes, and a wisdom body of attributes, or pristine wisdom body of attributes, is divided into two. But when we speak of 4 exalted bodies, those 2 are split out as 2. Instead of just saying a body of attributes, you say a nature body and a wisdom body of attributes. Or you could say a nature body of attributes and a wisdom body of attributes. Here, in Jam-yang-shay-ba's layout, he says a nature body and a wisdom body of attributes. He could say a nature body of attributes and a wisdom body of attributes. Now, as you read through this section, you will, and I've marked some passages in yellow, which is those parts that I wanted you specifically to put emphasis on reading, although I wanted you to read all of it, if to read those that are not marked in yellow, perhaps with less emphasis or quickly, but just to see and to get a sense of what's here, to be inspired by it, to be lifted by it. And I was thinking this morning also, one could get out that section from our translation of Maitreya's getting caught between languages and getting no language. Ornament of the clear realizations on the 8th chapter. It just goes on and on and on, and it's just beautiful to, just read the root text or read Ngao Belden's fleshing out of it, and to know where this material is. Read the 8th chapter, read through it. Young students in the Gelugpa tradition, at least in the Gelugpa tradition, but this is one of the 13 great texts in the Nyingma tradition. We could make a joke and say, Gelug has only 5 great texts. Nyingma has 13. They have 13 Chendal Choksum annotations, commentaries of annotations. I gave a talk on these in Vancouver. And Gelug fits the other 8 into its curriculum at various points. Yes. So it's a very important teaching that we already have a natural purity, a natural nirvana. Nirvana means passed beyond sorrow. In this case, the sorrow is inherent existence. Usually we think of the sorrow as the afflictive emotions, the obstructions to liberation from cyclic existence, and the obstructions to omniscience. In this case, the sorrow is taken to be inherent existence itself. You'll see that below. Or I should say, you've already seen that below. Inherent existence itself is taken to be the sorrow, even though inherent existence is not an afflictive emotion. It's interesting. You see, inherent existence is in a sense the mess, the sorrow. And there's Siri.
Okay, I found this on the web for Here in Existence is in a sentence to match the song. Take a look.
Thank you.
Thank you. Siri found inherent existence. She said, take a look. So, you see a natural nirvana, naturally passed beyond sorrow. And as I've said before, I've never seen anything about blowing out the flame in any valid text. Which does seem to make some sense, but blowing out the flame, blowing out the candle, or blowing out the butter lamp, but passed beyond sorrow. That's in plenty of the text I've seen. But I put that out as a thesis for you to knock down if you can see it in a text. See the other one, blowing out flame. So you see, everything is naturally passed beyond inherent existence. And so, already present are the factors that make enlightenment possible. And we have already within us intelligence wisdom, shara, pragya, mental factors that can be enhanced. And we have mental factors of samadhi. Is that the Sanskrit for, I mean it is, ding is in Tibetan, it must be samadhi. You know, small factors that can be enhanced. Okay. Since the thoroughly pure sphere of the Buddha ground is, from the start, pure of the sorrow, that's right here, of true establishment, inherent existence, it is naturally pure, you see, from the start. And since the means of antidotes, and since by means of antidotes it is purified of an adventitious defilements, it is pure of advantage. It is the nature body, the finality of true cessation. You see, there are a lot of true cessations along the way. A lot of true cessations along the way, beginning with the path of seeing, where the artificial afflictions are abandoned. That's the first true cessation. And then there's many, many, many true cessations. But the finality of all true cessations, the true cessation of the small of the small? I have to, but with regard to the afflictive obstructions, yes, small of the small. But with regard to the obstructions to omniscience, is there small of the small or just small? I forget. Anyway, we'll have to look it up. But anyway, the finality, the very last of the last true cessation is Buddhahood. That's roughly speaking, is the purity, the nature body that is purity of adventitious defilements. You see? Very carefully worded. So now, there's a quote here from Nagarjuna's Praise of the Element of Attributes, and quotes like them are repeated. So I want to jump down to Kedrup's, I have a automatic feature that has to stop. Jump down to, no, not Kedrup, Non-Buddhist annotations at the bottom of page 1224. With respect to the teaching that the nature body of attributes possesses 5 characteristics, Gyaltsab's commentary says, that this nature body of attributes is uncompounded and without production, abiding, and disintegration of a beginning, middle, and end. So the nature body is uncompounded in this sense. Well, he's not going to say that the nature body is impermanent and momentary. Why? It is an emptiness. So it is permanent. But he doesn't just want to say permanent, permanent, permanent. It's uncompounded. And it doesn't have a beginning, middle, and end. Doesn't have production, abiding, and disintegration. Okay. He's fleshing it out. Non-different. Now, it's undifferentiable from the element of attributes from, now here, element of attributes is being taken as the wisdom element of attributes, I say, in that it's not a different entity. From the element of attribute. It's non-erroneous. Wow. Now, I don't get this. How can what is essentially an emptiness not fall to the two extremes of superimposition and deprecation? Now, it's not a consciousness, so it's obviously not going to superimpose or deprecate. Now, does this mean it's not itself truly existent or non-existent? Is that what it means? The two extremes? That's all I can read into this. It's neither inherently existent, which would be superimposition, superimposed existent, or deprecation, which would be a deprecated, complete non-existence. Non-erroneous, though, would seem to be a quality of a consciousness. Thoroughly pure, due to being free from the three. Okay, that's afflictive obstructions, obstructions to omniscience, and obstructions to meditative absorption. The nature body of attributes. You would think it would be describing a consciousness. Clear light. Now here, in order to avoid turning you see, it would be easy to turn all of these five into a Nyingma version of emptiness and clear light being one thing, Nisumeva, non-dual. Easy. Clear light. So somehow clear light is going to have to be, the defilements are not inherently established. So this turns clear light into meaning the absence of inherent establishment of the defilements. The mode of realization by conceptuality is not realization in a complete manner. Wow. And the element of attributes, the nature, is to be seen in the manner of one's own individual knowledge by a yogi in meditative equipoise, realizing it. These seem to be diversions from admitting that the emptiness of the mind is clear light itself. I'm doing a Nyingma read on it. Is clear light. Then we have another that is 5 qualities, and if we go to Non-Buddhist, down at the bottom of 25, it is vast, right? Nature body of attributes is known as possessing 5 qualities at the very bottom. It is vast, nature body of attributes. the stainless sphere of a one gone thus is not comprehensible as exhausted as merely this measure. Innumerable. This is making it very palpable, rather than just an emptiness. You know, you can't measure it. You know, it's so vast, you couldn't enumerate it. But that means you can start counting. It is innumerable. It surpasses the number of grains in the Ganges River, in the Ganga. Number of grains, that means along the banks. So you could start counting, and you would count. Are you going to count emptinesses when you're, directly realizing them? It is unthinkable by logic such as the fourth. It is unequal by others. Okay, the last one is completely abandon faults, the afflictive emotions, together with predispositions. All right. Oh. It's always one thing leads to another, isn't it? You know, it said, if you want an explanation, turn to Gelu. Yes. But then it requires another explanation. And then the wisdom body of attributes. Now we're up to the wisdom body of attributes. Okay, 21 groups. And really you've got to, and there are all sorts of texts. 21 groups of uncontaminated, pristine wisdom of the Buddha, on the Buddha ground. And this is, and what's not in yellow here, down at the bottom of the page, is the ornament for the clear realizations. But this, just Jam-yang-shay-ba just cites part of it. It goes on and on and on. It's fantastic, really, when you read it. It's really inspiring. And Nagarjuna himself says, the ocean of pristine wisdoms dwelling in the stainless body of attributes, one should read it with great gusto, brings about the welfare of sentient beings like varieties of jewels. Jewels that, I don't know if you have to sell them to get all these things, or if these are various wish-granting jewels that this one will grant you this and that one will grant you that. But of course, if you sell them, it's like that too. Okay. Enjoyment body. 28. Jam-yang-shay-ba's root text, if we read the bold, endowed with 5 and not withdrawing its appearance, is complete enjoyment body. The complete enjoyment body has the 5 features of retinue, land, body, doctrine, and activities, and does not withdraw appearances of exalted body until cyclic existence is empty. Is, together with a retinue of limitless victor children of the 10 grounds, beneath the center of a jeweled roof and door adorned with jewels and various streamers, held up by many thousands of blazing pillars, in the abode of complete perfect Buddhification, the 18th type of abode. You see, there are 17, located above the 17 types of abode of the form realm. You see, we have the form realm with 17 layers. And above it is an 18th called the abode of Maheshwara. This is we're even better than those Hindus. The extent of this abode, produced by limitless collections of merit, according to Bhava Viveka. You see, Jam-yang-shay-ba is indicating there are really great things in everybody's text. You see, he quotes Bhava Viveka. He quotes Asanga. He quotes this one, that one. Chandrakirti. You see? He's all over the place quoting. It's a marvelous text this way. He shows tremendous non-partisanship. And then when it gets down to some important topic about emptiness, then he's right on Bhava Viveka. He's right on Asanga. But then he has all these other, you don't wipe out your opponent on every topic. You join in and you show how the Indian Panditas also relied on these other Panditas. He's really marvelous this way. Is equal to space, and its vastness is unlimited according to the Great Vehicle Sutras. And Asanga's summary of the Great Vehicle, Chandrakirti's 70 stanzas says, it is asserted that Buddhahood is actualized in the inestimable mansion of highest Pure Land. This is how the poets used to read their poetry. It's really marvelous. Read it with gusto. Maitreya's Sublime Continuum, page 31. The enjoyment body also has 5 features: continuous speaking. Continuous speaking. Would that we could. The excellent doctrine in the varieties of the profound and the vast, continuous appearance, by way of bodies endowed with the right light rays of the marks and beauties, continuous effort at achieving the aim of release for transmigrators, for migrators. Spontaneity without fluctuation and exertion in performing activities like a monarch of wish-granting jewels. Though displaying various phenomena to the sight of trainees, not abiding as having the nature of those. Lovely. So, lovely section on the emanation body. Really, emanation bodies, but when you're laying out the 4 bodies, then it's emanation body, I guess. Belden says there are 3 artisan emanation bodies. These artisans that he lists when you come down here, when the Jam-yang-shay-ba lists them out, emanations such as a lutist, a guitarist. But my version, as I've said before, at Shravasti, is actually, my version is Elvis, who was rather than Paul McCartney, Elvis, who was a mess, who became a mess, because Elvis started out as somebody with a voice that that some of us would really pay attention to. He could really do something with his voice. I don't really remember that his guitar was that great, but he had a beat that made people pay attention to, but he wasn't like Lightning Hopkins. I paid attention first because his name was Hopkins, but he had a guitar. Lightning Hopkins. He's another lutist, right? Guitarist. But Elvis had a voice. But then he became a mess. So he showed us how you become a mess. And you see, that could be a good example of an artisan emanation body who showed you, you know, how you become popular and how you become a mess. How you become a mess. How you become corrupt. Money, you know, and then drugs, death, sex, whatever. Sloppy, fat, vain. How you rise and how you devolve. So the emanation bodies are not just, you know, Paul McCartney's, who still leading a nice life, right? I don't know dirt on Paul McCartney. My other favorite one, I'll only have one more, was a guy who, as I knew him, was always a mess. He was at the other end of a bar in Bristol, Rhode Island. We called him Digger because he digged quahawks. Most people call them clams. And you have a long pole with a you know, something to dig on the end. And you go out and you're digging down maybe at least 10, but it's probably 15 feet out in the bay. And these are no-neck clams. We dig clams on the shore. Those clams have necks sticking out of them. We dig when the tide goes out. Digger would go out and dig what we call quahawks in Rhode Island. And he'd come in and spend his money on booze. So he was sitting down at the end of the bar, always. And he was, you know, dead drunk. We always knew Digger as dead drunk. But we knew he dug quahawks to get his money. And I think we may have made fun of him a little bit, but maybe I joined in a little. But he was a mess. Digger was a mess. Always a mess. And I looked down at the end of the bar one night and I thought, I'm not going to end up like him. You see? So I was thinking later on, that's an emanation body in my life. Digger. I never went back and thanked him. He's probably dead by the time I got around to appreciate Digger as an emanation body. I don't know what he would have said. Buy me a round. Buy me another round. One of my teachers, when a tree fell on his car, he was really surprised that his protector would allow a tree to fall on his car. When he was going along in the car, tree fell on the car, right on the middle of the car. And he thought, well, protector's not protecting me. And I wasn't in the car. I was off, probably teaching at the University of Virginia. And when I heard about it and what his reaction was, I thought, well, the protector probably made the tree fall on the car. That's what protectors do. They push you out in the road so the car will hit you. Anyway, so artisan, but the I don't know. Emanations such as a lutus, for instance, for the sake of training Sunanda, the king of Gandharvas, I don't know, as a goldsmith, as a writer, and so forth. Those all look pretty good. Incarnation, emanation, body. In New England we say body. The Lantern of Jewels says those become a great tree in the wilderness and so forth. Accordingly, these are emanations as a tree. I don't know the story, how the tree helped. You know? Somebody needed a tree. As a ruru deer. I don't know the story. But you see, as a bridge, you can see why somebody needs a bridge, why a lot of people would need a bridge, and so forth. Great enlightenment emanation body that displays the 12 deeds. So these are not, there can be emanation bodies who don't display the 12 deeds. You see, who appear as Drugul, but who don't display the 12 deeds. As Shakyamuni Buddha did. So what are the 12 deeds? And again, my fingers jumped this down to the end. It lists the 12 deeds in there. So that's a great emanation body.
Jeffrey, I've always, it seems to, at least what I've seen before, emphasize that the great emanation does display the 12 deeds. And then when thinking about how beings like His Holiness, if we consider him an emanation body, then, I've always thought of him as an incarnation emanation body, but we're saying he could probably be the great enlightenment emanation body.
You would have to, if you look down at the end of this quote here, the deeds of birth in a divine land, the joyous land, that one. No, not that one. And then the first of the 12 deeds, descent from the joyous land to Jambudvipa, entry into the womb of his mother, becoming skilled in the arts and letters, happy sport among the circle of consorts, renunciation, asceticism, proceeding to the tree of enlightenment, overcoming with the power of love the armies of demons after dusk, gaining full enlightenment at dawn, turning the 3 wheels of doctrine and passing from sorrow. I think that's the 12. If you look in Guncho Chigme Ombo's, well, in the text we were reading, and we read the 12 in there. I actually should have checked that this morning. It says, and then the first of the 12 deeds there, descent from the joys. Shakyamuni displayed them this way. So there's a better list in Gunjo Chigme Wombo's tenets text that we read. And that has a more generalized list, but a list of 12. So, if I wonder now why I interrupted you, and I apologize for interrupting you. If somebody has framed His Holiness's life around 12 deeds, you know, the as far as he's gotten in his lifespan, which would allow them to probably do most of those, they could make up, take his biography and probably show, maybe they could make this up, but we'd have to look in Gunjo Chigme Ombo's list of 12. And then maybe we could make it up. I wonder. Khetsun Sangpo told me that when he, I believe he wrote up some of His Holiness's deeds and showed it to His Holiness, and His Holiness had him erase some of them. And one of them was leaving a handprint somewhere in Bodh Gaya. I'll just relate that story that I've never told. Not that I was told not to tell it, but sometimes I'm told things. I'm a person who's kept his mouth closed. But how old am I, and how long am I going to keep my mouth closed? Anyway, when I interrupted you, did you have something more?
No, it's just, so you're saying that His Holiness would be considered the latter type of
I don't think so. Not as far as I know, unless somebody has constructed the 12.
Yeah. So then, wouldn't he be the second kind?
The
incarnation one?
Yeah.
Because he's definitely not the first.
The displaying of the 12. You mean? Tell me what first and second means.
The first kind of emanation body. He's not one of those. Or he's not an artisan.
Oh, he's not an artisan, and he would be an incarnation emanation body. Sorry, I thought you were talking about the difference between incarnation emanation body and great enlightenment emanation body. Sorry. Yes, he certainly is an incarnation emanation body. And then I've wondered, my misunderstanding your point led me into, I wonder if somebody has tried to make him into a great enlightenment emanation body who is displaying the 12 deeds. And one would think that would be hard to do.
Yeah.
I can't hold myself back from making a joke. No, I'll hold myself back from making. No, now that I've begun it. Somebody at my birth came to the foot of my mother's bed and did the prophecy. See, I think prophecy is one of them. Somebody comes and makes a prophecy. And he came to the foot of my mother's bed and sang a song. Paul Jeffrey Hopkins is a very famous kid. Was a Broadway tune at the time. And he just went on singing this way. Paul Jeffrey Hopkins is a very famous kid. And you see, he sang a song at the time. So you see, I fulfill one of the 12 great deeds. So I leave it to you to fulfill, to make it up for the others. Now you're taking a criminal. You see, I'm doing the Donald Trump. Okay. It's like a comic book or a total criminal. Yeah, all right. Yeah. I'm turning red. I can feel it. Oh, there was another one. Okay, I'll give you number 2. My mother used to put me in a clothes basket, one of those woven clothes baskets. This was the equivalent of a car seat, and put me on the floor of her, this is the early 1940s, of a car. And I think I was in one of those when she went to I believe it was some sort of restaurant in Providence. Well, you see, even the restaurant was called Providence. And there was a woman doing prophecies. And didn't I tell you this story? I've told it a few times, only a few. And that makes me modest, you see. I've just made myself I've learned from Donald Trump. And she was doing card prophecies, and she drew 4 kings on me. 4 kings. Now, of course, that makes you wonder how many people she drew 4 kings on. But anyway, this was supposed to be amazing. So she came to the conclusion thereon that I would be an ambassador to Thailand. So now you can say, Jeffrey thinks that that's showing off. He's so pathetic. So that's a great enlightenment emanation body that displays the 12 deeds. So you see how I was reacting in my misunderstanding of what you were talking about on the first and second. I thought you were talking about incarnation emanation body. Yes, I thought you were talking about the difference between that and the great enlightenment emanation body. So yes, certainly His Holiness is an incarnation emanation body. Oh, but this one, wow. This one here, now you raise a great question. Why does this one limit itself to things like great trees, deer, and so forth? Yes, you raise a great question without telling us what your question is. But of course I interrupted you. Yes. So, if you thought Jam-yang-shay-ba's examples limited what an incarnation emanation body is, His Holiness would not be an artisan emanation body, for sure. would not be an incarnation emanation body, would not be a great enlightenment emanation body. So, what would he be? I think it's time for us to... What time is it? Oh my gosh. Well, I think we have to say that Jam-yang-shay-ba's depiction is inadequate. For what? For the second one, right? For the... Yeah. You see how powerful her question was. Wow. How inadequate. Wow. They fill all the extent of space with pure melodies. They. Wow. Wow, you point to a great hole in that. And I believe in the text I translated everything. Wow, okay, so from next time we're at the features of the three mysteries and so forth. And I believe we will finish this and return to Mipam-gyatsho.